Good afternoon. Before we meet our two students involved in our program and a mentor from the business community, I would like to take a few minutes to describe our program, Mentoring Matters. The program was developed approximately 2 years ago with the intent of learning more about the impact of mentoring relationships on the career decisions and employment outcomes of college students with disabilities. Mentoring Matters is a work-based program between employers and college students with disabilities. We like to have a majority of the time that the students spend with their mentor in workplace environments to learn more about what these environments, the demands, and what their interests are within these particular career areas. The intent of the program is for students to develop a relationship with an established professional. We'd like to have, again, them engage in worksite experiences. So there's this exchange of ideas, if you will, where between the mentor and the students then can ask questions about particular employment opportunities, the demands of the job, particular skills that are necessary to be successful within a particular work environment, and hopefully for the students to emerge with a clear sense of who they are and their career choice. We see that there are some very large primary benefits for students with disabilities participating in Mentoring Matters. We hope that they are able to gain some work experience through their mentor relationship, that there will be exposure to a number of career opportunities, that they will gain information on rights and responsibilities in employment. And this is not only perhaps around ADA and rights of individuals with disabilities, but also responsibilities in terms of the career choice that they're making and what they need to be doing in the work environment. And to develop advocacy skills to obtain accommodations in the work setting. And I just want to make a point that when we match the mentor and the student, we do not disclose to the mentor the individual's disability. We leave that up to the student's discretion because we feel that this is a very good way for students to think through about disclosing to an employer, and if they so choose, it's a very good practice or opportunity for the student to be able to talk with an employer about their particular accommodation needs and what might be happening in work environment. But this is totally up to the student to determine whether or not through this mentoring relationship they will disclose their disability. There are 4 primary areas that we're looking at within Mentoring Matters. We are looking at career counseling, the exploration of careers, job shadowing, understanding sort of the work environment, job placement assistance, hopefully through networking experiences that students have, and conflict resolution, problem solving. These are 4 areas that we are looking at and gathering information on concerning that impact, if you will, on career choice and outcome of employment. These seem to be some of the 4 critical areas that we have found in our own experience at VCU working with students as well as in the literature. Students who participate in our program, we primarily recruit juniors so that we can ask if they would be willing to participate with us their junior and senior year plus 1 year post graduation. Students represent disciplines from across the campus, from various schools and departments within VCU, and they are given a small compensation, which is primarily for gas, so that they can have opportunities to go to various work environments for their mentoring experiences. As you can see from this chart, we have a number of businesses or organizations involved in our program. We've had very good relationships with a large insurance company, a large bank organization. We have relationships with state agencies as well as schools. and private businesses such as a dentist's office or small businesses, a local newspaper, and also one of our local television stations. We've been very fortunate. We've had very good response from the business community for our program. There are many in the community that are anxious to have the opportunity to mentor young adults, college students, as they choose their career path. We talk quite a bit with the potential mentors or the mentors about what their roles are within this relationship. And we want our mentors to provide for that real life information about the rewards and demands of specific careers. We would hope that our mentors could arrange opportunities for students to network with other professionals. We find that to be very critical skill for students while in college to really start making connections within the community. We also would like students to have an opportunity to observe any work-related activities, such as going to meetings or trainings, so that they really see the life of the work environment and everything that it entails. We are hoping also that our mentors will provide professional development opportunities or a chance or opportunity to work on special projects. And we have found that mentors, even prior to our asking about this or discussing it, bring up various projects that they feel would be a very good experience for students, and whether students could work on projects. Of course, we are mindful of the fact that students do have other obligations, so that any opportunity to work on special projects is done within the time frame of the mentoring relationship. And we ask mentors to share any tips for success in their field and to support and listen to the student as the student tries to figure out what he or she would like to do. We had one student who really walked into the mentoring relationship saying she wanted to do something with computers or something in the business field. And as the mentor relayed to us, that was a wide open area, and a lot of their discussion was to try to look at those particular areas within that broad area, that more specifically in terms of what her interests might be. We asked the mentors to complete a short information profile to help in the matching process. This would give us an idea of the types of roles and responsibilities, the type of job responsibilities that the mentors have, as well as interests that they have, hobbies, interests, to get a full picture of the person, if you will. Mentors either meet individually or in small groups with our program coordinator. It's an orientation training, if you will, to review the program and provide materials prior to receiving a student or engaging in the mentoring relationship. And it is during this time that we really do talk to our mentors about not disclosing a disability, and we have some very good discussions with our mentors at that point about how they should handle if a student does disclose, or just to brainstorm and to ensure that the mentor feels comfortable that he or she will be providing a welcoming environment for the student who does decide to disclose during the relationship. We ask that the mentor create and work toward a relationship with a student for approximately 4 hours a month, and that is sort of the minimum, if you will. We ask that initially that the relationship really be as much face-to-face as possible to really establish a solid relationship. But we do understand that with schedules and other conflicts that may come up, that we do encourage email or telephone contacts just to keep that information and relationship going throughout the time period. We do ask mentors to complete a brief quarterly, it's web-based survey indicating activities that have occurred during that time. We are especially looking at activities in those areas that I had mentioned before in terms of the career counseling, the job networking, and those types of activities, conflict resolution if there have been some discussions around that area, so that we get an idea of the types of interaction that the student and the mentor have had during a quarter. The student responsibilities very much mirror the mentor responsibilities, and we purposely did this because we see it very much as a 50-50 relationship, that the student is responsible for making sure that he or she sort of quote-unquote holds up their end of the bargain, if you will. So we do ask students to complete a short information profile that gets them thinking about the types of experiences that they may want to have. They also, either individually or in a small group, meet with the program coordinator to go over materials. And the student selects their mentor. They work with the program coordinator to go over the types of mentoring experiences that are available, and the student is able to review information and at that point decides what might be the best match for them. Again, we ask that the student be mindful that we are looking at approximately 4 hours a month through face-to-face primarily, if at all possible, and then email or telephone contacts. Students also complete a brief quarterly web-based survey in terms of getting their perspective of what has occurred during that particular quarter. And a very important part of what we do is develop a learner contract, and I'll talk about that in a minute. What I wanted to say is that we share information, materials, we post ideas for mentors and students on our Blackboard system here at Virginia Commonwealth University, and have found that to be a very effective way to keep the discussion going about particular experiences that students may have, but also what we have found, and especially through the literature, is that mentoring relationships are most productive when there are some framing of activities, or that there are particular goals that are established for the relationship. It sort of helps jumpstart it, if you will, to start exploring areas. So we are continually posting ideas for mentors to engage with their student, as well as students to engage with mentors. And one primary way to sort of start that relationship is to develop a learner contract. And what we do is our program coordinator will work with students, and it isn't something that is so very binding or anything along that line, but just a way to start looking at what kinds of goals that students would like to achieve or reach through their experiences. And so they develop this contract, if you will, prior to meeting with their mentor. An example could be that someone would like to, through their experience, have an opportunity at least to conduct some informational interviews, perhaps with 3 employees in different aspects or areas of human resource in a particular company. So it gets the students thinking about what is it that I want out of this mentoring relationship, what would help me the most in terms of career decisions or future employment or career options. We ask that the student initially contact the mentor to establish this relationship. They will talk about in their very first meeting about the contract. So let's say that a student does come in and say, I would really like to, after meeting the mentor and having an opportunity to get to know each other, the student initiates that they would really like to do some informational interviewing. We would then ask the mentor to contact those employees about the student, and then the student then would follow up and contact and do the informational interviews within a particular time frame. So there is that shared responsibility within this learner contract. Getting started. Contact information is emailed to both the mentor and student, and we follow up to make sure that that contact has been made, and that we leave it to both of the the individuals to set up a convenient time for meetings. So again, we look at the student and the mentor as a 50-50 relationship. We see that the student is responsible for really engaging with the mentor, and the mentor as well engaging with the students. We do offer tips for students in terms of getting acquainted and sort of getting started. Students may conduct an informational interview with their mentor and sort of start out practicing that way. Or again, bringing ideas through the learner contract. And then together, the mentor and student then decide on the focus of the relationship. And of course, this contract is something that changes and builds, if you will, as the mentoring relationship continues. That's a very brief overview in terms of our program, sort of the framework and the structure of it. And I know that that we are now anxious to hear from our students and our mentor to talk about their specific experiences and their benefits and things that they've achieved through this program. So I'm going to turn it back to Terry so that we can hear from one of our mentors, Sally Wetzler, about her experiences.
Well, thank you, Liz. And now Sally Wetzler has joined us, and Sally is a mentor who is participating in the program, and she's with Dominion Resources. So Sally, tell us a little bit about yourself and your educational background.
Sure, Terry. I've been with Dominion for 13 years, and the majority of that time has been spent in audit services where I'm a lead auditor. I'm currently a certified public accountant as well as a certified fraud examiner. And I graduated from New York University's Stern School of Business. And immediately after that, I spent approximately 8 years in public accounting working for Arthur Young & Company, which is now part of Ernst & Young. First in their national office research, then in their New York audit staff as part of their audit staff, and then moved down here to Richmond to audit staff. I've also held accounting positions with 2 other firms here in Richmond before joining Dominion. My career objectives have become much more focused as I've progressed along in my career, and it's been a definite shift from a position-oriented career development towards a career satisfaction. My performance in audit and in working on items that give value back to Dominion gives me so much more career satisfaction and has a more positive impact on me than going ahead and trying to achieve that next rung in the ladder, so to speak. As I've matured, it's also become very important to me to find ways of sharing my professional expertise and making it useful beyond the bounds of my paid employment. I've been achieving this through involvement in various volunteer activities. I'm the treasurer of the James River Outdoor Coalition, which is a charitable 501c that supports the James Park River system. And I was recently appointed to the board of directors of the Richmond Economic Development Authority, where I am currently serving as chair of their finance committee.
Very good. And that kind of leads into our next question. What made you decide to participate in this program?
Well, my primary reason for participating is to try to give other individuals with disabilities some resources and opportunities that were not available to me while I was attending NYU and when I first became employed. There were no mentoring programs available, and while there were other students with disabilities at NYU, I was the first student with a significant disability to go through the business school and use the regular placement offices. I was lucky enough to have the head of placement services at that time kind of take me under his wing and be my unofficial mentor, and his advice and encouragement were just invaluable to me, and I just hope that I can help in my participation to give some of that back to my student.
Very good. Tell me about your student's career interests and the types of activities you have coordinated with him.
Okay, well, the student I'm assigned to is a non-traditional age student who already has a significant work history and is working on a major career change. He's been unhappy in his current career and has come to VCU to gain additional skills in order to move into some sort of a finance-related position. We spent our first few phone calls and meetings just kind of getting to know each other, explaining a little bit about what my background is and what the reasons that I had for getting involved. And he spent some time explaining to me why he was returning to school and seeking another career and what he wanted to get out of the program and what we might be able to do together. And under that, I went ahead and arranged for him to spend the better part of a day at Dominion, where we set up informational interviews with people in various finance areas, audit areas, HR, so that he could get some of the realities of what it would be like to move from a position where he had an established career into an area where he'd basically be going into some sort of an entry-level position. Mm-hmm. I had him speak with the Director of Audit Services, works in our Sarbanes-Oxley and IT group, and even had lunch with the Vice President under my group. So, and I've also spent some time, I've showed him some of the other professional groups that are out there that that have student nights and that type of thing there, where he could get some additional information. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, what were some other things that you felt worked well in the mentoring process?
I especially enjoyed the one-to-one contact and the flexibility. Rather than having a standard program, every student's needs and objectives are going to be different, and having the student and the mentor working together to determine an approach is much more efficient than having some sort of a cookie-cutter thing that you go in and do this and that. The student I've been mentoring has been employed successfully, so mentoring approach was totally different from that of someone where a student has not had a full-time position before and needs to know more about the work environment and that type of thing. He was looking for insight into the change and the means to network, whereas another student might have wanted to know more of the day-to-day employment issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Why do you feel that this type of program is so important?
It offers students someone to help get them information, to make contacts, and to have support during what can be a very difficult transitional period out of school.
So Sally, how can other employers get involved in this type of mentoring program?
Well, employers can support this program and others like it in two ways. The first is to encourage employees to volunteer to be mentors and support their efforts. Dominion's fully supported my activities as a mentor, allowing me the time and the flexibility, as well as allowing me to involve other employees in the activities I described earlier. And the other way is for employers to fully embrace diversity.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sally, for sharing your mentoring experiences with us today. Well, now we're going to go back to Liz, who will be talking to two students who are actually participating in VCU's mentoring program. Liz?
Thank you, Terry. We will now be talking with two students who are participating in the VCU Mentoring Manor program, and we are very appreciative that they are here today to talk about their experiences. Both of our students are currently seniors. Amanda is majoring in history, and Maria is a mass communication major. So to begin, I'm hoping that each will talk a little bit about yourselves and your current career goals. So Amanda, could you give us a little information about who you are and your career interests?
Like you said, I'm a senior at VCU, and I'm a history major, and I'm interested in teaching. I became passionate about history my junior year in high school because of a teacher I had, and it wasn't until my sophomore year of college that I realized I wanted to teach history. So I would like to teach middle school history and eventually continue my education and go into grad school and get my doctorates eventually. So.
Great. Wonderful. And Maria?
Yes, I'm also a senior. I am expected to graduate at the end of the summer. I first became interested in sports broadcasting through my family. They're a bunch of fanatics, and I recall watching football and basketball religiously throughout middle school and high school, and I think that has influenced my decision to try and be a sports broadcaster or do something in the media business.
That's great. Wonderful. Well, my next question is sort of looking at what your mentoring experiences are about, because I know our audience is very interested in learning from your perspective about your experiences. And Amanda, could you tell us something about your mentor and the type of work setting that you were involved in?
Yes. My mentor was Miss Shirley Hawks. She's been in the education program for 20 years, and I job shadowed her at Martin Luther Middle School, and she teaches 7th and 8th grade history and English, so I was able to work with her in those classes, and the classes that I worked with specifically were learning disabled and behavioral problem students.
Great. Maria, and about your experiences, I think you had 2 different experiences, as I recall, which is something that we do offer for students to have a variety of mentoring experiences, and I believe that you had 2 experiences?
Yes, my initial concern was how a person with a disability would just deal with the workplace. So my first mentor actually worked at Anthem, which is a large health insurance company, and she had a disability, and she would just talk to me about her everyday, activities and how the company has given her help, and how maybe other companies can help you and what questions to ask when you go into an interview and things of that nature. Then my second mentor is the sports director for WTVR here in Richmond, Lane Casadante with CBS, and he's helping me with more hands-on experience going out in the field and seeing how sports stories are made, and I'm learning from him that way.
That has to be very interesting.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, Amanda, getting back to you then, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with the school system?
Yes, Ms. Hawks was an amazing mentor. She is more of a hands-on teacher. She's more about the visual learning to accommodate different learning styles than just standing up there and lecturing all day. And she was very nice enough to allow me to help the students and to interact with them with their lesson plan and their everyday assignments. And one specific example, I was able to help a student with an essay on Martin Luther King, their choice between his protest styles or Malcolm X's. And I just use an example. If I scream and yell at you and make a lot of noise, are you going to listen to me? Or if I calmly talk to you? And the student was able to understand and then tell the difference between the different styles. So I think that kind of helps students prepare for tests and to remember it's a different way to remember things. So that was my
That's
experience.
great. So you really had some real hands-on experiences.
Yes.
That's tremendous. Well, we're interested in your TV experience since you were behind the scenes with a local sportscaster.
Yes.
What was that like?
Yes, well, with the behind the scenes, you get to see all the details involved in these short stories. And one example I like to tell is about the Super Bowl. And with the sports casting, you go on the wire service and you look at footage nationwide. With the Super Bowl, it's always funny because it's a national event, but you have to make it relevant to Richmond. So Lane's plan was kind of just to take the story and go with the hero aspect, the underdog. The quarterback at the time, was kind of the underdog, and he just pushed that story forward. Another story that we did, we went out to the baseball stadium, and I got to go in the field and meet some of the fans and be there for the national anthem. And he made me run around with one of the cameramen and we had to try and interview a 4-year-old. And I must say, I felt like I failed miserably because he only answered one-word questions. But then the camera guy was like, he's 4. You did the best you could. So that was fun. And most recently, I had to watch a NASCAR event and watch them do the time trials and sit and make a list of every single person who ran and what speed and how long they took. So just learning, it's not all fun and games. It's real work. So
that's great.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Well, Amanda, from your experiences, what's impacted you the most in terms of your career decisions or career growth through this process, this mentoring process?
Like I said before, working with her really gave me an idea of what teachers do and what their everyday lives consist of, and it really made me want to teach even more, and it made me realize how much I loved working with children and teaching. I do have my disabilities, panic disorder, and so it does restrict my everyday life, and this has helped me better prepare for what's coming up in the future for me, because that is one restriction of my disability. It's hard for me to have drastic changes in my life. It's hard for me to cope with it. So this change, by slowly easing into the career, really will help me for my future. So.
Good, good. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's, I think, an important piece of information. And Maria, what impact in terms of your career decisions or career growth in this process?
Well, it's really confirmed for me that I want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to be on camera. It's also a very filled field and very time sensitive, and I have dyslexia, so I have to deal with maybe looking for some other positions where things aren't done so quickly, because I need to take my time and review things and go over them, just because that's what my disability seems to make me want to do. And maintaining a schedule that I like, because they have weird shifts, like 2 to 11 p.m. or 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I just don't know, for me personally, with my family-oriented life, if I could do that. So that's where I've learned a lot from this.
Well, and following up then, were there particular challenges with your mentor in terms of maybe scheduling times, or were there particular issues or challenges, and how did you overcome those?
Well, with the scheduling, with the time, it was difficult because I have 2 jobs and a full class load. So, and he's busy also because it's the weird schedule, 2 to 11. I'm kind of doing homework at that point, but so we had to work that in. And like when he would write a story, he would write it right there. Like it would take him 2 minutes, and that was something with my dyslexia. I'm not sure I would be able to do that, but like maybe the editing or just filming, I think I'd be more comfortable with that.
Well, good. Well, thank you. The mentoring program, what impact in terms of your college experiences, and what do you think your experience would have been without it, going through VCU, and what kind of impact, or what are your feelings about that, about having the program as part of your experience? We'll start with you.
Okay. Well, I always like to meet new people. So through this program, I've gotten to meet you and Lori and a lot of other nice folks, as well as my 2 mentors and the people they work with every day. And I think it really enhanced my experience. I have people to speak to for advice, as well as references on a resume. And like with my first mentor, asking, how do you approach your employer about, your disability? And then, with Lane being quite honest and frank that he doesn't know any sportscasters with dyslexia, but the newsroom has a lot of, characters necessary to make it run smoothly. So there's other positions I shouldn't, just give up or anything, because I'm a little worried about necessarily being on camera. So I think meeting these people and talking to them, that's what's helped me the most, and I think made the most out of this experience.
Great. And Amanda, your thoughts on your experiences and how this during college and being part of the program?
I think my experience has definitely made me have a positive outlook towards the program. I think Mentoring Matters is a very important program for college campuses and for students to participate in. It gives students with disabilities access to job market and careers that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise, and it gives them a way to kind of get a foot in the door, maybe a little ahead of some other people too. So, which is nice. And this is a program I think good for any students, really, not just students with disabilities.
Do you believe, Amanda, that programs like this, in collaboration with our Career Center or with the College Career Center and a Disability Support Service Office, do you believe that that would be important to have on college campuses?
I think it's very important. When you graduate, it's kind of a hectic time, so it's hard to know what you really need to do and where to go, and these programs really help you map this out. So in the last minute, you're not scared or not sure what you want to do. You have a plan, and they really help with that.
And Maria?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I love the fact that you all place us in a work environment, and that really gives you a feel, you know, that when you get there you don't have to be nervous so much. You know, you're kind of used to it. You see what it's all about, and I just think that's invaluable. And I think not just people with disabilities would benefit from it. I think everyone could. It's a great way to meet people and have contacts for the future. So I like that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing today. I know that being on camera and everything isn't always the easiest, but you both have done a wonderful job in terms of really explaining your participation, and really you've been wonderful students to have in the program, and we do appreciate you sharing your thoughts today.